What's up, everybody? Exciting news. We just got back our security audit from Solidity Finance. And so right now, I know me and Goldkey were on stream earlier, but right now we're going to just go over everything that they said. I briefly looked over it, and I figured that if I'm going to be looking at it in detail, I might as well just do it here. I have the comments open, so I'll go ahead and add the link to the audit so you can take a look yourself. It's nothing private. Everything about this is fully public. So if you're here in the chat, feel free to open it and we can read through it all together. If you have any questions, just pop them here in the comments. I'll try to be looking at that. But yeah, so we'll just, I figure what we'll do is we'll just go through the audit. And then while we're going through the audit, also be looking at the actual contract code that they were reviewing. And then we'll just talk a little bit about what we need to do moving forward after the audit. But long story short, everything, there was nothing critical. No critical vulnerabilities were reported in our audit. All of the things that they had noted were really just more like Solidity best practices where, it works just fine, but it could be a little bit better if these things were done a little bit differently. And I shit you not, these things are like 2 to 3 line fixes. So nothing major. They did note that there's just in the message, they noted that there's a situation that could result in leftover hex or leftover hedron being left in the contract. So I'm in discussion with them more about that, which they didn't include here in the security report. But other than that, they didn't report anything as being critically wrong with the Maximus contract. So overall, that's just like a big step forward. For Maximus, so many people have been asking for an audit. I'm glad we connected with them, and I'm glad that they got it back to me a day before it was due. So yeah, so the way they, in their words, is Maximus is building a new staking contract for users to deposit tokens and earn yield. Yeah, so that's accurate. Where you deposit hex and then the contract earns yield on that hex, and then you're able to collect from it. So they reviewed the project's Maximus contract at commit. Let's just pull this up here. So this is what they reviewed. This is the code that they reviewed. So they said, please ensure trust in team prior to investing as they have substantial control in the ecosystem. So I'm going to ask them more about kind of what they mean by this, because in some of their other audits that they do, they talk about like the control that the team has. And in many cases in those audits, it's like related to where like the team can shut it off. The team can mint as many coins as they want. So I'm going to follow up with them and ask them kind of what they meant by that. But it's not like they went really into any details here or highlighted any risks that, may arise from, the team control. Because we really don't have any control. We have no special privileges. There's no fee collected. There's really nothing that anyone who's like involved, because really, it's like this one, it's like a volunteer effort. And 2, it's like, there's no like official team. It's like, yeah, I'm, producing the code and, building the web product, but, this is all kind of stemming from, big group effort across a lot of different people. And a lot of people's ideas are really going into this. So, just because I'm the volunteer that's actually, making the contract, there's really no benefit that I get from this at all, other than just the satisfaction of helping others. So that's all they said about the centralization was, it's kind of a vague blanket statement here, which, I guess makes sense. But finding one, Maximus, so informational, the way this interprets, way at the bottom. So how do I interpret the findings? They have a different severity level. They recommend that you resolve things that are high, medium, or low. And then the informational one, they pose no immediate risk, but it's to inform the project of opportunities for gas optimization and general best practices. So, these are the things that we're really looking for, were things that, severe critical vulnerabilities, high probability of exploitation, serious logical issues, which could prevent the code from operating as intended. So when we look at their findings, all three of the findings are just informational. So that's already a great sign that, the logic is sound and there's no way for somebody, at least, per the test suite that they, used, there were no high, medium, or even low level vulnerabilities, just informational things. So this one right here, ownership of contract is renounced on deployment without any prior ownership functionality. Recommendation: we recommend removing the ownable library as it is not utilized within the contract before or after the ownership is renounced and therefore is dead code. So what they mean by that is, right here, one of the libraries that I import is part of this like Open Zeppelin suite called Ownable. And the contract itself is marked as ownable. But after that, the only thing that from this library that is used is me turning the library off where I renounce ownership, meaning like there's no address. That this is what makes sure there's no admin key. But what they let me know is that because this isn't used, I can erase this line, erase this tag, and erase this function. And then from there, that will no longer, we won't have like any like dead code in there. And so that's, purely like a just best practices thing. But that's good to know. I didn't know that. Where I got this code from was from a tool that Open Zeppelin has. It's called a wizard. But this is like when I first started writing the contract, I went to the Open Zeppelin site. Open Zeppelin, they write like these pre-audited contracts and libraries that you can use as building blocks for your token. And by making it mintable, it by default brought in this ownable library. And so, so when I just copied and pasted this into mine to get started, I just left whatever they had. So, there's really no reason why I had this other than that was like the default behavior from this thing that just helps you get started. So, yeah, that's a super easy fix. I'm glad they pointed that out. And that's, that'll just make it that much better. So finding number 2, another informational one. Several functions are declared public, but are never called internally. A state variable can never be modified, but is not declared constant. Okay, so what this is saying is that these two variables, the Hedron address and the Maximus address, they're declared as, where is this? Just as normal addresses, meaning that like, these addresses could change. Like, I mean, there's nothing in the code that would update them, but like, maybe like a line of code could have caused these to be updated if that was written. And so what they're recommending to do is declaring the functions as external and declaring the state variable as constants. And so that would just cause additional gas savings anytime that these are called. So, again, not a critical vulnerability, but this is just like a best practice that saves gas for when these things are called. Because right now, Hedron address, if we just look in here, the Hedron address is defined. It's used here to instantiate the interface with the Hedron contract, used again to interface with the Hedron token. And then it's used again. Oh, okay. So, in that it'll save some gas on deployment, and I think just in general. So that's good. That'll help us save on gas when we're doing simple things like calling a permanent, variable that's not going to change. So that's a good sign. That's a good suggestion. And then, so that's dead easy fix. All that is switching. Where is it? Here where it says address, rather than saying address, it'll also say address constant. And so easy fix. Finding number 3, informational. Several functions are declared public but are never called internally. Okay, so that's similar to what this one earlier there. So get minting phase start day, get minting phase end day, get stake start day, get stake end day, get redemption rate, get hedron redemption rate, get hex day, get hedron day, and end stake, pledge hex, redeem hex, stake hex, and stake hex, mint hedron. Okay, so all of these functions, these are like all the public functions that people can use. And because none of these, like all of these functions are only caused by end users and not by the contract itself, if we were to declare these functions as external instead of how they're declared here, like for instance, public, if we just because they're only used by the end user, changing them to be external instead of public will just save gas. So it'll make it cheaper to call these. So that's a good, that's a big part of our value proposition is reduced gas impact on the hex stakes. So I'm really glad they included these suggestions, because that even if it's not that big of a deal, it's like we want it to be as efficient with gas as possible. So all I have to do to fix all these is literally swap this word public anytime it's set on those listed functions, switch public with external, and we'll be good to go. So yeah, overall, literally, I'm very pleased that all of the fixes that we have to make are literally just like Solidity best practices, and like a couple things just to make the gas a little bit more efficient. That's awesome. Like those fixes are going to be trivial to make, and so so tonight I'll go ahead and fix those. Make sure everything's good, and then I'll what we get to do with our audit with Solidity Finance is we go back and we send we fix whatever they had suggested, and then they will update. After we fix it, they'll review it again, and then they'll update this, and so it'll pretty much say like no findings. This is good to go. So this is awesome. I'm really excited. And so, yeah, I'm glad that all went. So why don't we just keep walking through what they said? So contract overview. So this is like in their words, like the description of how it all works. And so it says this contract allows users to stake a team designated token. So that team designated token is hex for a set duration of time in order to earn rewards in the form of the staking token as well as an additional reward token. So they called hex the staking token, and they called hedron this additional reward token. So that's pretty accurate description of what this is. Ownership of the contract is renounced on deployment. So once we fix that thing that they had noted, they'll probably remove this because there won't be any ownership. Users can deposit the specified staking token into the contract until the depositing end time is reached. Users are minted an equal amount of MAXI, and there are no fees on deposits or withdrawals. Yep, so that's fully accurate. That's how it works. Any user can burn their own MAXI tokens to reduce the total supply. So yes. So when you run the burn function, like anybody could do it. We're not going to necessarily add that to a user interface to make it easy for you. We don't want anyone to accidentally burn it. But, what if in the future somebody decides to make some other token or some other project, and for their sacrifice phase, maybe their sacrifice is that you have to buy MAXI and then burn it. And so by reducing the total supply, that just increases the redemption value of the hex and the hedron at the end of the period. So I'm glad that they noted this, is that like anyone can burn their tokens purely to reduce the supply, because that end supply value is what dictates the redemption rates. And so if people end up burning their tokens on their own outside of the normal redemption flow, that just increases that redemption rate and potentially increases that premium. So that's cool that they noted that. Additionally, users can burn MAXI token from other addresses up to the amount of allowances they've been granted, also reducing the total supply. Okay, so that's also an important aspect here, is that other contracts may interact with your MAXI on your behalf. So like in here, it's talking in the context of burning it, but like what this is indicating is that like, you can allow other contracts to interact with your MAXI. And so that just shows that like MAXI is really extensible, and, you can build on stuff. You could build on top of it. We could keep building on top, all this together, it's very extensible. And so that's another interesting thing that, I'm glad that they noted here. Once the depositing end time has been reached, anyone can trigger the staking process, in which the total staking token balance and predefined staking duration of the contract are passed to the staking token address's stake start function for staking. The staking token contract is not included in the scope of this audit, so we are unable to provide an assessment of the contract with regards to security. Okay, so so that's just highlighting that they understand that like all of the hex is staked for the predefined staking duration, and it's passed to this hex stake start function. And since that contract is not in this scope, what we're leaning into is the hex audit. That's what it's saying. So Solidity didn't audit the hex contract, but when we look at the audit that CoinFabric produced for hex, that's kind of what we're relying on, and also just the track record of 100% uptime in hex. So that's fine that they're not going to provide an assessment, because we've pretty much at this point it's pretty clear that this is secure and works as intended. Users staking token rewards are based on the contract staking token balance and total MAXI supply. Yep. So the amount of hex that you're able to get is based on how much hex that the contract has and the total MAXI supply when that redemption rate is calculated at the end stake. So yeah, that's exactly how it works. Anyone may trigger the reward token harvesting process within the reward token contract using the staking index and ID from the staking token contract at any time. However, reward tokens cannot be claimed until staking end time has been reached. Okay, so that's describing the hedron, where anyone can cause that hedron mint native function to run using the stake index and ID that's generated during the hex stake. But the coins cannot be redeemed until the end of the hex stake return. So that's, works just as intended. The reward token contract is not included in the scope of this audit, so they're able to provide an assessment of the contract regarding its security. So same as the hex one, in that case, we're leaning into the CoinFabric audit. So that's what we'll be doing. Users' reward token amounts are based on the contract's total balance of the reward token and the total MAXI supply. Yep. So total balance of reward token, meaning hedron, and the total MAXI supply. Yep, that's it. The team cannot change the staking token or reward token address once deployed. Yep. Just as hex and hedron are immutable permanent contracts, we are treating them as such. That's how it is. When the staking end time has been reached, users may trigger the end of the staking process and withdraw their staked funds. Rewards are then automatically claimed. An equal amount of the user's MAXI is burned on withdrawals. They trigger the end of the staking process and withdraw their staked funds. Yep. So after the staking is over, you can withdraw the funds that were staked. Rewards are automatically deposited into your into the address, and then the MAXI is burned on withdrawal. So it's good to know. Here, the contract is ownable. However, ownership is renounced on deployment. Okay, so they had already said that, but yeah, that won't be an issue after there. The team must exercise caution when setting the staking reward token and must avoid using any fee on transfer tokens. If a fee on transfer token is used as the staking token, then this contract should be excluded from the staking reward token's fee mechanism. Fee on transfer. So I think those fee on transfer tokens are the ones like, I think like SafeMoon and some of those other ones where like anytime they're transferred, it like burns a percent of the fees. So I don't think that applies. I'm going to do some more research here. Let's just look that up right now. Fee on transfer token. Okay, so that's in most cases a fee on transfer token burns or diverts a small portion of every transfer, such that the recipient of the transfer ends up with slightly less. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure why they pointed that out, but Hex nor Hedron is a fee on transfer token, so I don't think that necessarily applies. This contract complies with the ERC20 standard. Yep. And as the contract is deployed with Solidity via 08X, is protected from overflow, underflow attacks. So that's good. All right. So it looks like they have a pretty thorough understanding of the contract. And yeah, I mean, that's honestly a great way that it's good to hear it in someone else's words, like we don't use staking token and reward token, but that, it makes sense. And it's good that, it shows like the grasp of understanding. So that definitely gives me some confidence that they knew what they were talking about here. All right. Audit results, vulnerability category, arbitrary jump storage right, nothing, pass. Centralization of control, pass. Compiler issues, pass. Delegate call to untrusted contract, pass. Dependence on predicted variables, pass. Ether/token theft, pass. Flash loans, pass. Front running, pass. Improper events, pass. Improper authorization scheme, pass. Integer overflow, underflow, pass. Logical issues, pass. Oracle issues, pass. Outdated compiler version, pass. Race conditions, pass. Reentrancy, that's a big one, pass. Signature issues, pass. Unbounded loops, that could nuke a contract, pass. Unused code, on deployment, ownership is renounced without any prior ownership functionality. Warning, okay, that's the first thing they noted. Overall contract safety, pass. Pass. That's kind of like that Richard Hart, like on a double, on a double, on a double. Pass, 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 pass. Oh my God, there we go. All right, so there it is, folks. The contract passed all of these various vulnerability category tests, and all we really have to do is just fix these things just to make it's like the icing on top. It's like was already a great contract, and it's about to be like a perfect, excellent contract. So there we go. Inheritance chart. Maximus, ownable, ERC20 burnable, ERC20. Okay, so the Maximus contract is these things. Yeah, I mean, this, only people that know Solidity know what all this is, but these are just kind of like Maximus, like it leans into the ERC20 standard. It follows the like standard like burning processes, and the contract is ownable, but that's going to be removed. So I think once we remove that, this will just be ERC20, ERC20 burnable, then address, safe ERC20, safe math, Hedron token, hex token. So these are just like the other tokens that are in there. So let's see what this means. Internal call, external call, defined contract, undefined contract. Okay, so maybe that also means I don't need safe math imported. I don't know if I use it, but I don't think we have to use it anymore because of the Solidity version, but who knows. Address lib, function call. What does this mean? Now this is kind of beyond my only serious sophisticated Solidity people really understand this, but this is all rooted in the ERC20 standard, so it's nothing different there. ERC20 name, symbols, decimal, safe ERC20, safe decrease allowance. Okay, I mean that's okay. Maximus Constructor, decimals. Okay, so something I actually was hoping, or actually I'll talk about that when we get to the code, because we're going to take a look at the code here in a minute. Okay, so these functions here are just like, these are like to help the user view these, or for like a front end who's going to like, if you wanted to build your own front end on Maximus, you could use these to like know what to write. And just like, this is like the certain, record of when the stake starts, when it ends, when the minting phase starts, when it ends. So, these are like just the facts. And then pledge hex, that's user facing functions. So let's see where those, so yeah, so pledge hex makes sense. It goes into the hex contract. Where is that? Hex. Okay, so transfer. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is just a map. It's honestly probably easier to look at in the code, but this is just like showing what functions everything runs. So, the pledge hex, I can't tell where that's pointing to, but I think an ERC20 transfer and mint. Yeah, so mint of that. And then get Hedron day, that's just like for regular use, just so people can kind of know what's going on. So get end staker, this is actually, no, we'll talk about it in the code. This will all be easier to look at in the code, but this is just like their map of like how all the functions call each other. And that's probably how they just like check to make sure that nothing is calling like a nefarious contract. Payable function, functions, non-constant function. I mean, this is kind of nitty gritty ERC20 standard stuff, like these are just like the standard functions involved in that. So let's take a look at them. Okay, Hedron token. So these are the functions that we use: approve, transfer, mint native, claim native, and current day. I didn't think I was still using claim native. Hex token. Let's see if it was in their version. Where's did we have claim native? Oh yeah, so we did leave the claim native, but it was never actually called. So I'm surprised they didn't have us remove that, but that's okay. Because it's not used. So it's better to have more stuff that's not used than less stuff that you're going to need. Hex token, current day, stake start, approve, transfer, stake end, stake count. I don't actually use stake count, but then Maximus contract. So get minting. So public functions there are, these like readable ones that you can see. Percent, that's for calculating the, we'll go down the code. I don't know why I keep reading these, but yeah, so these things at the bottom are just the map. And then from there, it just, here's some more information about Solidity Audit. They have over $10 billion in value on audits on or in projects that they've audited. And this is honestly a great experience working with them. I would highly recommend. This was really good. Well, so yeah, I'm really pleased with what they've reported. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone who helped us with our couple of test sequences. That was really helpful in helping us prepare for the audit, because through those tests that we did, we were able to find things that we had to fix before we sent it off to the auditors. So that's probably why there was nothing wrong, is because we had already done significant testing before we had sent it off. So again, thank you to everyone who participated in that. Speaking of which, what's pretty cool, speaking of the test, before we get into the code, maybe we just look at the Maximus, see what's going on with the minting. So today, I think yeah, let's see. Yeah, so when it says 0, we'll fix this before the mainnet launch, but that means that this is the last day to mint here in the test. So if you haven't yet, go and do it. Don't be jealous of my whale-like maxi bag here. What is super exciting is that 5.9 million hex has been used to mint MAXI on testnet. So what's pretty incredible is that all the hex on the testnet came from real users. And what's shocking is that either this, we'll have to look to see how many people actually minted. I think it was, I actually don't know how many, but this maybe, no way to tell how many people are going to mint in the real one, but it's everyone does their own thing, but I wouldn't use my mainnet keys to play around with stuff on testnet. And you probably shouldn't either, even though this is totally fine and safe, with the MAXI contract. I just, personally wouldn't risk that. And every time I'm on testnet, I'm in new wallets. If I want, for my hex on my testnet thing, I did got the PLS from the faucet and then swapped and got almost none. But yeah, that's a pretty strong signal that, $5.8 million or 5.8 million hex has been used in our test here. That's strong, strong evidence of awareness and demand. And so what would that be? So 5, 8, 1, 2, 3. I think it was 5, 8, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3 times 0.15. That's just under $1 million, $880,000 worth of hex has been used to mint in this. So that's pretty impressive. And yeah, and so let's just dive into the code. Let's just talk this through, because the whole everything that's really been driving us in the development of this has been simplicity for the user's perspective. There's not all this advanced game theory to capture. There's some follow-on game theory related to the liquidity pools and just general strategy around how to trade it, but there's really not much complexity related to actually the operation of the coin and just how it works. So a big part that we were trying to do is just make it so that you could read it. Because at first, honestly, we were thinking of not even getting an audit and saying no expectations. You want to run it, you audit the code. We almost took it that far, but the audit gave me a lot of peace of mind that what I was doing was right. And it was totally worth it. So, the original, we were going to just, make it so simple that you could audit it yourself. That was part of the design criteria. The whole thing was could an end user reasonably look at the contract and make sense of it. So that's kind of what we did here. These are just like the different libraries we use. Rather than like writing a lot of code from scratch, we're using standard libraries that we don't, like these are audited, like these industry standard libraries. So a lot of the things that like contracts used to like really mess up on are things that are resolved in these. So that's like a big part of our just strategy. And then here, all we're doing is we're defining the functions that we're going to use in the Hedron token and then the Hex token. So we're like just defining the functions that we need to use when we interact with the Hedron contract and the Hex contract. So that's just like how you do it. Here we wanted to define the rules here in just like readable text, so people can know what they should be expecting. You can go ahead and read this on your own. The GitHub is on the website. All days are measured in terms of the Hex contract day number. So the only oracle that we really rely on is the Hex, like the Hex day. Like that drives a lot of this, but that's like fully reliable and everyone knows it works. It's not going away. So these are just the different variables: minting phase start, minting phase end, stake start day, stake end day, stake length, redemption rate, Hedron redemption rate, has stake started, has stake ended, has Hedron minted, and the end staker. So this is like who ended the stake. And we'll talk a little bit on why that's important. So this is called the constructor. This runs when the contract is created and then never again. So this is like how you initiate the contract to just like work as you need it to. So we define the start day as the Hex current day. The minting phase start is the start day. The minting phase end is the start day plus the mint duration. So when we like deploy the contract, we tell it how long the mint duration day is. So we're going to say 4. And then the stake duration, we're going to say 5555. So little Easter egg, there's a reason why we made this definable in the deployment thing. But we'll visit all that later. So when we deploy this, it'll say, 14 here, 5555 here, and then minting phase end is okay. So start day plus mint duration, stake length equals stake duration, has stake started, false, has stake ended, false, has Hedron minted, false. So we're just setting it up, like all the logic that the whole thing needs to operate, we're just setting it up right here. Redemption rate, 1 times 10 to the 8. So the reason why this is 1 times 10 to the 8 is because there's 8 decimals in MAXI, and there are 8 decimals in MAXI because there were 8 decimals in Hex. So manually overwritten from default 18 to 8 to match that of Hex. So 1 MAXI is 10 to the 8 mini. So like, how there's like Hex and there's hearts. This is like the same thing. Like there's max and then there's mini, but we almost never use the word mini because like just, 1 MAXI right now is like 14 cents. So, and just for like the division, you need to, like just the way it all works. Like, so this is like effectively like how many hearts are redeemable per 10 to the 8 max, 10 to the 8 mini, since like 1 times 10 to the 8 mini is 1 MAXI. This is like effectively like the number of Hex redeemable per MAXI. So at the start, it's just 1 to 1 because like you mint 1 to start, and then when you end this, and then also before the stake started, you can also redeem the Hex at 1 to 1 rate. And then Hedron redemption rate is 0 because like there's no Hedron is redeemable until minting has occurred. I should probably clarify this until the stake is ended, and then renounce ownership. So that's going away because that's what they told us is unnecessary. If we remove this, we remove this, and we remove this. So yeah, that's how it's defined. And then from there, there's still some more things that it, like just now it's like kind of the meat of the contract. So here, this is just like the function that both overwrites the decimals from 18 to 8, and then also enables people to view how many decimals there are in this contract. So if another contract wanted to build on top of it and they somehow needed to know the number of decimals, they could just read that function, and then that'll tell them that there's 8 decimals. And so here's the MAXI address. So, that's address this. That's just like this current contract's address. Here's the hex address, OX2B591E, 2B591E. That is the question. So that's how I always remember if I'm looking at the right contract address for hex. And then this is the Hedron address. This is a pulse chain testnet Hedron address, but it's actually the same with the new testnet. This is actually the same. So this will be updated to pulse chain ether or mainnet address. So here we're defining like how our contract interacts with the hex and Hedron contracts. So for transferring of tokens, we use this IERC20, so like the ERC20 interface, so for like the transfer. But then for the staking of hex token, we use it via this like hex token, where we pass this like hex token thing, the hex address, or we pass the Hedron token thing, this Hedron address. So that's like how we interact with it. So for like start stake, end stake, we use this hex token, and then but for like mint native, we use Hedron token. But for like transfer hex or transfer Hedron, we use Hedron contract, hex contract. So, that's just how it works. Also, like much of the code is just the comments, like the documentation. So definitely, like if you're reading this, like just anything that's like in this gray text that's like covered by these stars and the slashes, all of that is just like information for you to make sense of whatever that is. So like get minting phase start day, it returns the minting phase start, so it returns the hex day that the minting phase has started. So like we have all these functions here. They're just, purely for your information or for some other contract's information. Get minting phase start day, get minting phase end day, get stake start day, get stake end day, get redemption rate, get Hedron redemption rate. And then that just gives you all the information. I'll get hex day. So those are, and get Hedron day, and get end staker. So we added this because there have been some rumblings from the crowd that people want to have a pool that they can send ETH to, which the person who ends our stake can flush, can take possession of, if they end our stake. So it's like a way to incent, because of that like opt-in payment for the staking, where like only like one person has to pay the gas on behalf of everybody, just to incentivize that someone does that. One way to do that separate from our contract and not making it rely on not make it part of our thing, make it fully separate, would be to just create a contract that just pools ETH, and then that contract would make it so that only the person who ended the stake, which is saved, like when the stake ends, it records who ended it, says returns the address of the person who ends the stake, may be used by external gas pooling contracts. If stake has not been ended yet, we'll return the all zero address. This person should be honored and celebrated as a hero. And so, thank this person by sending some ETH to a trustless gas pool that person and that person alone can claim from. So, that's just something that we think can help, with like one line, with like one line of code, we were able to set our contract up to be able to support an external contract that was going to, reimburse the person who ends stake. So that's awesome. And then this function here, it's used to calculate a ratio to consider the decimal rounding that has to take place. So you pass in like the hex balance, the denominator, so total MAXI supply, and how many decimals to cut off at. And then this is just like how we calculate those redemption rates. So, this numerator times 10 to the precision. So like to divide in Solidity, because it's all integers, there's no such thing as decimals. You have to effectively pad in zeros so that like you can, so that like your result is, you can make sense of the result, and then you have to like divide by those zeros at the end. So you'll see that in action a little bit. But yeah, this is just like a basic math function that our contract uses to calculate the redemption rates. This function mint, so note here, this is a private function. So only our contract can run this. So nobody on earth can run mint. This is private. And then the function that mint runs is deep within the ERC20 contract. And that one is also private. So the minting function, this is used during this pledge hex, which you'll see here, but nobody can run this. So even though this function's here, because it says private here, that's what protects us from invalid minting, because the only place that mint is run is in this pledge hex contract, which, right here, what it's doing is it's checking to make sure that today is less than or equal to the minting phase end. So if today is after that and someone tries to run pledge hex, they'll get a warning in their MetaMask that says minting phase is done. You can't run this. So that's like what stops you from trying to mint when this minting phase is done. And then also it says require that the hex contract allowance. So this is checking that the allowance that you are granting the MAXI contract to spend your hex on your behalf. So your message.sender, it's making sure that within the hex contract that the allowance that you set for the MAXI address to be able to spend on your behalf. So like when you do this pledge hex contract, you have to first approve that when you go there, and it's like, first Maximus needs to permission interact with that many of your hex when you go through this motion. And when you do that, it's say like the hex contract now has an allowance that you have granted the MAXI address. So this is like this just checks to make sure that you have activated and like approved the hex contract for interacting with Maximus. So that's something that you can always control. You can always revoke your allowances by interacting with the hex contract. And this step here is it's just to prevent you from accidentally running this function with not having approved, because it would fail and you would pay the gas for it to fail. So this is just to like help you not waste gas. So address from is you, message.sender, that's the person calling the function. Then hex contract transfer from, so we're calling the hex contract. We're calling the transfer from function in the hex contract, and from, that's you, to the MAXI contract address, the amount being the amount that you passed in when you click pledge hex. So when you click pledge hex here, so mint MAXI, you're running this pledge hex function with this amount. And so that is what is passed into here, this amount variable. And then that's the amount that the hex contract sends from you to the MAXI address in the amount. And then right there, just mints the amount right to you. So, so that is literally exactly how it works. You pledge the hex, you get the mint. And so, yeah, so it calls mint here. So it calls that private mint. We're minting to the message sender. That's you, the amount that was passed here. So that's how the pledge. That's truly how simple the whole pledging mechanism works. Like that's it. It's literally one function here, mint, which just wraps it. We could just call this directly, but it's best practice to break it out into a private function. We could replace that with one line, but like literally the whole pledging thing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code. 2 of those lines are just to prevent you from running it when you shouldn't be. 1 is just defining making it readable. Like we don't even need this line. And then 1 line for the like transferring, and then 1 line of mint. And so like that's I say that to just emphasize how dead simple like the whole Maximus experience is. Like even the code is simple. Like you could make sense of this if you just like were looking at it on your own. So here, this is the redemption function. It's a little bit more complicated, but still very simple. So it checks to make sure that either the stake has started or has stake started is false. So you can't run redeem if the stake has started or if the stake has ended is true. So pretty much this means that you can only run redemption before the stake has started or after the stake has ended. You cannot run it if the stake has started, because it just, the redemption window is before the stake or after the stake. So redemption can only happen before stake starts or after stake starts. So that's just, to make people not waste gas trying to run this function. So your MAXI, it calculates the balance of. So balance of is just like one of the ERC20 functions in like that we import when we import ERC20 here, and our token is defined as ERC20. That means that within our contract, we can just call balance of, and that tells us the balance of our function or the balance of whatever address you send it. So it just gets your balance. It checks to make sure that you have as much MAXI as you're trying to redeem. So if you try to redeem more than you state you will, before we get through all this and let it fail, it'll just warn you not to run this because it's going to fail. So it's just a check to make sure that you have as much MAXI as you're trying to redeem. There's this value raw redeemable amount. So this is the amount MAXI times the redemption rate. And then like redeemable amount is raw redeemable amount divided by that 10 times 10 to the 8. So all that is because when calculating these redemption rates here with this percent function, we multiply by 10 times 10 to the 8, and it produces a number that's like this number of digits long. In Solidity, just the way you do that math is you have to then divide it by that same value you multiplied by. So like we start by shifting the decimal, and then we end by shifting it back. So that's what gives you the total amount of redeemable hex. And so then it burns your MAXI, and then after that, so once it burns your MAXI, it then transfers your hex. So it sends to the message sender the redeemable amount. So this is what like when you run your, like you did on the old test and what we're going to be doing in a couple of days on this new test with the with your redemption, when it sends it, it's just sending the amount that it had calculated here as like what you're going to be redeeming. And then it handles the hedron. So like if has hedron minted, meaning hedron can only mint after the stake is started. And so that means that this will only be true after the stake has ended, because it's only allowing you to run. So like if you were to run redeem, you got wet feet during minting and you want to redeem, you're at 1-to-1 rate, you'll get your hex back, but it won't redeem any hedron. There's no hedron there. But after there's been hedron minted, then and it's in that like post stake redemption period, it will calculate in similar fashion how much hedron is redeemable per that amount MAXI, and then it'll do that same thing, the hedron token transfer to you, the redeemable hedron that you're going to take possession of. So yeah, like that's purely how the redeem hex works. It's all driven by this whole concept where like there's a final redemption rate for each coin, and then just based on, so then it's all the contract has to do is like, per MAXI that you're trying to redeem, you don't even have to redeem all at once. Like it's just like knows like per MAXI how many hex you can redeem, and per MAXI how many hedron you can redeem. So that's very simple and very effective. So these here are the staking functions. Anyone may run these functions during the allowed time so long as they pay the gas. While nothing is forcing you to, gracious Maximus members will tip the sender some ETH for paying gas to end your stake. Yeah, so, kind of reinforcing that there. So here this is the Stake Hex function. And so what it's checking is making sure that the stake hasn't started yet. Just, again, we don't want you to waste gas trying to run this. It finds the current day from the hex contract, makes sure that the current day is greater than the minting phase ends. So it's makes sure that you can't run this when the minting phase is still ongoing. And then it calculates the amount of hex that the contract has. So hex contract balance of address this. So this is the Maximus address. And then it runs this private function stake hex in that amount. And all that stake hex thing does is from that hex token interface that we defined, we run the stake start function, amount, and stake length. So amount being the total, so balance of, meaning the total hex in the Maximus contract, for stake length, which was defined when we instantiated the contract up here, where stake duration, so stake length equals stake duration. So when we deploy, we put in that 5555, and that's how we do it. No, where is it? Okay, so it runs that, and then it sets these values that like the contract then uses. So has stake started is now true. Stake start day is current day. Stake end day, current day plus stake length. So then these you'll be able to read if you want to know when the stake started and when it ends. So again, this is like just that private function just to wrap this, and then this end stake hex. That's for this one. So down here, to end stake hex, this checks that the hex token current day is greater than stake end day. So that's big. So it's impossible for our contract to early end stake. So that's an innovation in itself already. It tells you it's not complete yet. Then this requires that both of these are true, that the stake has started and the stake has ended. So that's just to ensure that this end stake hex can only be run after the stake ends. This function can only be run while the stake has started and cannot be run after the stake has ended. So this just makes sure that it's going to run once and only once. Then it runs this end stake hex function, which again, much like the stake hex function, all we do is we just end the stake by calling the hex token function the stake end, pass it the index and parameter. You get these from the log. You can also get these. There's a million ways to get these, but these are passed in by the user. We probably won't make these functions available like on any dashboard, because really it's like only advanced users, only the person who's going to pay for this should run this. And so it's very easy to take the contract address and then the contract ABI, which is like a map of all the functions. It's easy to take that and plug that into a user interface that you can like call these functions with, which we'll do a whole video on that later, which is important for like enhancing the decentralization of our front ends, where like, even though we're hosting a front end, say we decide to take it off, say we go rogue, we take it off, you can always produce your own front end. And so that's, an advanced user will know how to use this, but for most people doing this, you don't even need to worry about this end stake function, because, it's likely someone else is going to run it. Then it just sets, so here it sets this value has stake ended. So it marks that it's over. And then it sets the redemption rate. So the redemption rate variable, that's the hex redemption rate. So how many hex per maxi that you're going to get. Starts at 1, but then after the stake, it's probably going to be something like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, who knows how much it'll be. But it calculates the redemption rate by taking the hex balance. So the amount of hex that's in the contract address at the time of the end stake, and then the total maxi. So how much maxi is in the contract at the time or how much MAXI in total there is at the end of this. And then it sets this redemption rate where the percent, it runs that percent function to pretty much divide the hex balance by the total MAXI and to chop it off at 8 decimals. And then that's what this is. So that's what gives us that redemption rate, which in the last test that we did, it was like 1 to start, and then at the end the redemption rate was updated like 1.00000438 or something. So it was like, so that redemption rate is calculated here, and it's based on the hex of the contract and the total MAXI supply at the time of redemption. So if at any time you burn your MAXI, you run the MAXI burn function, which you can't. It's run in the redeem function, but if you independently run it, that I do believe that reduces the total supply. And so, like, if there's an event where a lot of the MAXI supply is perhaps bought and burnt, then this total MAXI is a smaller number, so that redemption rate is just gassed up. So, like, if MAXI is burnt during the duration of the contract, then that redemption rate just increases because now there's less MAXI to divide that hex over. So keep that in mind. And then the last two functions here are just the ones related to the hedgerin. So mint hedgerin, this is the public function that anybody can run, where you pass in the index and the ID, similar to how you end it at a stake. And it runs this function, mint hedgerin. So here it runs the mint native function in the hedgerin address. And then it takes the amount of hedgerin that our address has, so the amount of hedgerin in the contract address of Maximus, and then it takes the total MAXI at this time, and then it updates this hedgerin redemption rate to be the amount of hedgerin divided by amount of MAXI, and then it marks that hedgerin has been minted, so that like after the stake ends and people run redeem, it'll go through that hedgerin redemption sequence. So that's it. That's our contract. It's only 254 lines of code, which includes, I mean, look at these. In a lot of cases, the comments are longer than the code. So it's really just a handful of functions to make sense of. They're written in plain English. They're hopefully very understandable. And with just like a little bit of time and effort, you yourself could audit this and determine that it's safe enough for you to run. So I'm really proud of how this came out, and I'm glad that what Solidity Finance let us know in the audit was that everything's good to go. So our next steps are we're just gonna fix these little things that they had in here. And we're going to finish out the test sequence that we had now. So I think the minting ends, I think let's see. Yeah, so minting phase ends in like 24 hours of this test. And then I think it was a 3-day test. And so we were going to just like run through the sequence of the hedgerin minting and redemption, and then and so during that time we're going to fix these things and then return the updated code to the auditor, and then they're going to effectively just like go through it again and then update this report, and then from there that's really it to schedule the launch. So I'm not going to give a hard date on when it's going to launch just yet, but this is looking good. And so to get ready for Hex, or to get ready for MAXI, all you need some liquid Hex. So procure that any way you can, and go ahead and join the Telegram, t.me/MaximusDAO. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/Maximus_DAO. Catch me on YouTube at Dipcatcher. Catch Stan on YouTube at Gold Key. We've been doing some good broadcasts lately and putting out some good information. And Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for all the support you guys have given. Thank you to the over 600 people that have joined the Telegram chat. Our Telegram numbers and growth have been through the roof. Super high engagement. People join the chat. They become participants. We don't just have a lot of just like passive watchers. We have a lot of people participating, new people every day. Some hilarious memes in the chat. A lot of people excited every day. There's dozens of people. Win MAXI, win Mint. Is it live? So like, there's a lot of demand for it. 5.8 million hex has been minted in our test contract. A lot of eyeballs in it. When I see some of the people in the chat, I'm like, oh wow, you were very active in the chats in December 2019 and January of 2020. Like, these people, they may be important Maximus ecosystem participants. And so overall, very, very pleased with how it's going. It felt like it was dragging out. Honestly, I probably should have just been more diligent in just like getting that first version of the contract done. But that happens. It's gotta just flow out of you. And luckily, we got it done. Nothing serious in the audit. So looks like we're going to be able to latch on to at least some part of that hedger launch bonus. So that's good. Hopefully we can get our whole thing done before the Pulse chain launch. If we don't, it doesn't matter. That's okay. But it just would be so awesome if there was just parity, one MAXI on Pulse for one MAXI on ETH. But if that's not the case, who cares? That, just different rules to the game, but don't even change the rules. All it is just like that, baseline ratio is just different. And then other than that, nothing changes. There's still value to hold MAXI on both chains. So yeah, that's I'm going to go through the chat here and then just see what everyone said and answer any questions that people may have. Zach Taylor says, congrats on the audit. Thank you so much, Zach. There's the link. Mr. E, our bro, woohoo. Blue Bum, I'm going to go on his stream sometime this week. Had an awesome stream with him and some of the other Australian Hexicans. That was fun. Some cool people. So maybe Suit of the DAP talking about the thing that they had reported that like you need to trust the team, substantial control. Maybe they just mean that we have substantial control in the Hex ecosystem, even though we don't control anything in Hex. But we're just in the game. And two huge men. What are you saying? Me and Stan are huge. That's funny. Gold Key says, let's go. Blue Bump says, congrats, great audit. Garo Crypto says, just read the white paper, makes me happy. Oh yeah, it makes me happy too. Gold Key, no critical issues, only informational feedback. Yep, that's nothing, no critical. Yep, get that M in that rocket. When can I give you my hex? I don't want it for a while. Well, you're not giving me the hex. You're just minting MAXI with your own hex, which you are in sole possession of. So I am not getting anything. It's important. Jay Everything, thank you for the comment. Our brother Mr. E says, great news. Hexatarian, the RH ecosystem is going to melt faces. That's right. There's so much exciting stuff going on. This Hedron, Pulse Chain, Hex Investment Trust, the Mintra NFT thing, like all this stuff. Awesome. What other ecosystem is this active? And also what's honestly so great about like our ecosystem compared to others is that the barrier to entry to participate in a meaningful way in our space is actually very low. So that means more people can participate than in other one, like in other like DeFi protocols. Like, to really meaningfully participate, you have to be an advanced Solidity developer or like an advanced like ecosystem designer. And like in ours, like, because like we just start on such like a solid framework, like on top of Hex, and because the Hex contract is done and like fully complete, and then from there, like the main contributions are mainly related to like marketing and growth efforts, and because the contract is like so extensible where you can like build on top of it and around it, like that just makes it so that like knuckleheads like me can like reasonably go and build a contract that like meaningfully impacts the utility of Hex. And I never written Solidity for, even though I'm a full stack developer, been a professional developer for years. And I love just creating stuff, and I just kind of, that's just what I do for fun. Like I'd never learned Solidity until a couple of months ago. And I'm learning it in the context of building this, and the fact that, that like, because we're starting on that strong foundation, just in not much time, we're able to produce something that has no critical vulnerabilities. Like that's kind of just a testament to just like how strong of a foundation that we're standing on. And so that's why I think that our whole ecosystem, like the kind of the whole Hexagon, Pulse Chain, Richard Hart ecosystem is just so strong, because like it's just is on such a strong foundation. Well done, guys. Great work. Thank you so much, Garo. So when launch, hopefully soon, we're gonna have to talk this through. We're gonna probably complete our test and then like fix these things and send it back to the auditor. But then, could be soon, could be very soon. Great job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Will, for being in the chat and answering questions. And thanks for all the support. It's awesome. Hex Farmer, another friend from the chat. Which hedger multiplier? I don't know. I'm not sure what multiplier we're on today, but hopefully, I think 4 or 3 are in the works, but maybe. Amazing work. Thank you so much. Who wants to be real Maxis? Yeah, that's right. We are Maxis. I love how we hijacked that name. They used to be somebody who like call someone an insult, and we just totally just like commandeered that name, and like we're the Maxis now, and now it's a good thing. So that's awesome. I like bigger hedger multiplier. Yep. Yeah, that Hedron's a beast, and so we want to get as much as we can. OG Maxis, yeah. If you're a minted Maxi, you're an OG Maxi. Hex Farmer says he's a real Maxi. Mystery says these auditors sound like they know what they're doing. Yeah, they really got it. I mean, one, it's like they do this for a living, but two, like I'm glad they were able to understand the contract. I didn't even send me. All I did was send them the code and our website, which had the link to the white paper and everything else, and like they got it instantly. So that's good that they were able to understand it. Such a great audit. Yeah, this is really helpful, and this will be just good, social proof to everybody that nothing critical is found. Matt Phoenix says, yeah, MRI and SafeMune are fee on transfer tokens. Oh, yeah. So they were talking about that like fee on transfer thing that they had noted here. So that doesn't apply to us. Hit that like button. Yeah. Golki says, hit the like button, guys. Yeah. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit share this with anyone that may be interested. Get the conversation going. And thank you so much. Pass. Yeah, literally. We should make a whole music video. Arbitrary jump storage. Pass. Centralization of control. Pass. Honestly, you know what that's like? Oh, I'm going to show you a video. You know what that reminds me of? One sec. Let's watch this. One sec. We're going to find it. You know that reading this reminded me of? Pass. 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 I'm tight as fuck. Centralization of control, whack. Compiler issues, whack. Delegate call, whack. Dependence on predicted variables, whack. Me, I'm tight as fuck. We need to spread this very fast, people. Please tell your community. Yeah, that's right. Spread the word, pump the links. You guys are doing a great job already, but let's keep going. All check marks. We like it. Yeah, that's what I said when I first read this. Maximus is the ultimate hex maximalist. Yep, that's right. Literally, a contract that only knows how to hold hex. Like, that's awesome. MAXI and Hedger and help hex. Yeah, these are all just like force multipliers for the hex ecosystem. Like, the more powerful that the financial utility of hex is, like the stronger money it is, and the more sources of demand that we can unlock. And so, yeah, that's big. Thank you, Hex Phantom, for the wonderful images of support. Hex Farmer says everyone will be able to buy Hedron's multiplier and 2022 T-shares for the next 5,555 days. Imagine the daily payout gain in the future years. Yeah, that to me is going to be a strong premium driver. Is that, like, I think we tweeted yesterday, like Maximus is like a T-shirt time machine. Like, you can either like stake on your own and lock in your T-shares right now, but if you're to buy someone's MAXI in the future, you're effectively buying an aged stake, where you're earning at that prior rate. And so that could be like a strong source of demand. Is it like, say it's 10 years from now, the T-share rate is who knows what, maybe 30,000, 40,000 hex per T-share. I don't who knows what it'll be. It could be, whatever that is. But then say you wanted to stake for 5 years, you could buy MAXI from someone, and in effect, you're holding hex where there's 5 years left on the stake. But for those 5 years, you're earning at the 2022 T-share rate. And so, maybe that is like a serious driver of that premium, is that you're like, the opportunity cost of like otherwise staking on your own is that you're locking in a T-share rate of today as opposed to the T-share rate at the instantiation of the stake. So that's probably an important figure in that, is it like, you're buying, it's like you're going back in time to lock in that lower T-share rate. And so that's pretty powerful. I'm glad that Hex Farmers brought that up, because that's really important. Pass. Now we can fly to the moon. Yeah, that's right. Crypto Sloth. Oh, shit. Hex Farmer. Thank you, Richard, Alex, Dipcatcher, and Golkey. Yeah, literally. Thank you all. Literally, thank you, Richard, for making such an awesome underlying asset. And thank you, Alex, for creating such an awesome extension upon Hex that even just further superpowers everything that we're doing. And Alex, again, thank you for the help in looking at our contract and helping me get that hedging integration running. I cannot thank you enough. That really means a lot to me. So thank you so much. And family, yes, thank your family. Everyone, thank your, like, all the people that are around us. They're just as important. Oh, that may be the reason for their informational note, is that we must trust the devs because you're setting those values at deployment. Yeah, that's a good point. What he's saying here is that this little comment they made about please ensure trust in team prior to investing, as they have substantial control in the ecosystem, is because at deployment we set, where is it? At deployment we set the mint duration and the stake duration. But also, if we were to, those are values we can't change. If we were to set those incorrectly, then you as the user could just look at that, and you would know that that something was wrong, and so you wouldn't, nothing forcing you to mint, and those can't be changed. So maybe that's what they meant, but who knows? But like, even if we were to nefariously or mistakenly create a mint phase that was like an incorrect number of days, or a stake duration that wasn't correct, like, you could look at that and make sure of it. And even if you did mint, you could redeem in that mint phase. So maybe that's what that whole trust thing was about. This deep dive is very informative. Great job, Brian. Yeah, thank you, Mr. E. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to go through this. Hopefully this can, people can, if they want to look at the code, they can look at this alongside it and then see what that's all about. Maximus. That's literally the best. That's literally one of the best scenes in all history. So great. Look at that. Blue, that's fire. That's right. No ES. Yep, no emergency on stake. Excellent news. Yeah, thank you, Dog Days. Matt Phoenix says, can you clarify one thing for me? I deposit Hex in the contract. I can withdraw MAXI based on the Hex deposit. At the end of the contract, I return the MAXI, withdraw my Hex plus inflation. Yes. So you're depositing Hex into the contract, and then you're not withdrawing the MAXI because the MAXI doesn't exist. It's minting the MAXI. So when you look at the Block Explorer receipt after you do the minting, you'll see that Hex was deposited from your address to the Maximus address, but then the MAXI comes from the OX00 all zero address to you, meaning it is minted into existence and deposited straight to you. So you're not withdrawing it, you're minting it. And then at the end of the contract, you don't return the MAXI because you're not giving it back to the contract, you're burning it. And so it's like you're sending it back to that OX0000 burn address. And then that's what allows you to withdraw your Hex plus the interest that it earned during the stake, plus the hedron that it earned also. So that's what. Good question. That's how it works. But I just want to be clear that you're not withdrawing MAXI and you're not returning MAXI. You're minting MAXI and you're burning MAXI. But you have to burn it through the redeem Hex function. Like you should not burn this just by burning it. You're not going to get your Hex back if you just burn it. You have to run this redeem Hex function, and you have to run this. All right, so that's everything in chat. If there's no more questions, then okay, I see. It said, right, we're minting MAXI, redeeming MAXI, reclaim the Hex. Yep, exactly. You got it, Matt. That's all you got to do. So if that's all, then I think I'll probably hop off here. But again, I'll go ahead and so go join our Telegram if you want to read the audit yourself. We'll include the link in there. I'm going to go ahead tonight, just fix those things, send it back to the auditor, and then get that updated audit report. And then from there, all you got to do is get your Hex ready to mint. You need liquid Hex. If you want to practice on the testnet phase, there's still about 24 hours left in that before we start our stake, and then we practice the hedron minting and just like all those dynamics. So yeah, until next time, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the support. Please join us in the, find our websites here, maximus.cash, t.me/MaximusDAO, and twitter.com/Maximus_DAO. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, share with your friends. And again, thank you so much. We will talk to you all soon. Goodbye.